All right, and we're live.
We are live, damn.
We are live. Sweet, sweet. Okay.
Well,
What
welcome
is going
to
on?
the Slightly Smarter podcast with Ryan and Rishav, and our guest for this week, DY. Thank you for joining us.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
So, for those of you who don't know about Slightly Smarter, we're asking age-old questions to age young people to get a refreshing perspective on the interesting and sometimes hard-hitting questions of life. But many people listening may not know more about you, DY. So, if you want to give us a quick intro.
Yeah, sure. I am the founder of Primal Meal Prep, which is a meal prep company, but majority of people don't really know that what that is. So I actually just tell people I sell food on the internet. Generally, when people ask me what I do, I tell them I sell food on the internet. That's kind of the gist of it. It's an e-commerce company. I founded it back in 2015, and we've
Uh-huh.
been running for about 2 years. Completely bootstrap. Sold a chunk of the company back in 2016, so about a year after. Raise funds. Now we're in this space. It was bootstrap. I started from home. So
It's
that's
amazing.
kind of been the journey from basically $3,000 in my pocket to here. Now it's been a lot of fun. We're definitely still have so long to go, but yeah. Before that, I was a trainer, so a lot of like my entire background's in fitness. And I decided to start a product because I wasn't happy with all the existing products on the market, and I
Right.
thought I could do better. I got fired from my job, and that's when I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna back it up now, and like just got all my time back, and I'm gonna go and actually do and not just talk shit.
That's dope. So could you, so you would,
Wait, am I allowed to curse? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm allowed to curse.
um, so you were talking about the fact that you started out as a trainer before you got here. Do you want to give us a little bit about your background? Because I'm really interested to see kind of what are the steps that led you to where you are now.
Okay, so let's go straight from all the way to the beginning.
Amazing.
My mom's Taiwanese, my dad's Singaporean. I was born in Singapore, um, but we left when I was really young. Basically, after my brother was born, 2.5 years younger than me. So 2.5 years later, we left. Um, we left Singapore. Sorry, there was a little pop up. We left Singapore and then moved around a lot growing up. Actually spent 9 years of my life growing up in China in international schools, and then I moved back to Singapore permanently back in when I was about 15, and my parents, put me into a local school. It was really rough. Like coming back to Singapore was the roughest thing ever.
Mhm.
Hated schools here. Just didn't get along with people. I was a terrible child. Got really bad grades. Like I failed. Like I failed throughout high school. Like I feel like I scammed my way into one of the best schools. Like I went to Hua Chong. Like people
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
like,
Okay,
oh yeah,
wow.
here. So I say that, but like I didn't really go there, like because I skipped so much school. Um, but like they came back and no school would take me because I didn't have any PSLE. Like I had nothing, and my dad kind of knew someone on the board, and he was like, "This is the school you're going to. It's a really great school, and if you join them for like their last quarter and you take their well, like they'll give you a spot, right? It wasn't like a shoe in, like just like he got it. So I went in and I was like, but it's a boys' school. Like, there's no chicks. Like, what are you doing? And so the first day, I remember walking to school the first day, right? And this is a story about like kind of like fitting into Singapore. I had long hair, had my ears pierced, and I just thought you just put on this uniform. I was like, this uniform's weird. I never wore one back in international school, right? And then I just put it on. I walk in, and everyone just looks at me like I'm some alien because like they've never seen it before. And I'm just like, why is everyone looking at me like that? And where are the girls? And that's kind of the story of I'm gonna walk around a bit because I need to plug my phone in. But that's kind of how I got started in Singapore, and I did really well, amazingly, for the exams when I first got in.
Hmm.
I passed and they accepted me, and that's why I say I scammed my way in because I failed literally every single class ever um, afterwards for my entire time there. Like I never passed any class again. Um, like for real, like seriously failed. Not like Singaporean fail, which is like you get a B.
B minus.
You get a B3, and it's a failure. No, I got like straight D's and F's. As a student, I was not cut out to be a student. So yeah, that kind of went on. I barely made it into JC. Had to take re-exams. They were like this close. I got into trouble so much, like in school, just because I hated it. I would skip school a lot. I got into a lot, like so much trouble, like you wouldn't even believe. I was the worst kid. You know, I was very good friends with the discipline master, and just saw the principal tons. And I barely made it into JC. Had to take re-exams to get in, and I continued failing my way through JC. And all I did was play basketball, and it was the only thing I ever wanted to do was play basketball. I would skip school, and then I would show up to basketball. But then I got smart because I would show up with an MC and be like, I was sick, but now I'm better, so I'm going to go to practice. You can't do anything about it. So there was a lot of that. I did horribly in junior college. Also failed my A levels. It didn't really fail. I only took 3 H2s. For those of you who don't know, like the minimum you can take for A levels is 3 H2 subjects, and if you fail one, you don't pass. I failed one, but I got an A and B in the other one, so like, you know, like kind of like I thought it balanced out, but I don't think universities felt the same way. So yeah, that was that. You know, did Army. It was just everything. Bounced around a lot after Army.
So you're a Singapore citizen, are you?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And what did you do in the Army?
I worked at a fitness and conditioning center.
Right, you were one of those guys.
But I was a clerk, you know, because I tore both of my Achilles tendons before the Army, so I had major surgery to repair both Achilles tendons. It was just the most horrifying injuries of all time. They cut your tendon open because it like snaps, right? It's like a rubber band, so they cut your leg open, and then they'll like pull it and they'll overlap it and they'll stitch it back together. And like basically your foot's in a cast for 4 months, and you have to learn how to walk again. Your foot's like this the whole time, and you like every week you go to physio to try and even get it back to like normal length because the tendon's so tight. So I did that twice.
So you were the most jacked clerk in the SAF.
I actually have a funny feeling that like most bodybuilders or like people into fitness were like, or a lot of athletes ended up not being PES A and B just because we always have so many injuries.
Yeah.
So actually a lot of my friends who were athletes that played basketball, and like they're in like PES C, like for like surgery and like just a bunch of shit, right? Like so that was how that was. Army sucked. Took a lot of MC. Really great. I actually took a total of 1 year's worth of MC.
Wow.
I ORD'd on MC. So lots of really good achievements, but I think a lot of it goes to, I would say actually my first foray into entrepreneurship was when I just graduated high school. I started working. I've always loved working. I got my first job. I was really excited when I turned 15 because 15 is the legal working age in Singapore. So like, I got to Singapore and I found out I couldn't, like, I was like, I really kind of want to work now. And I was like 14 when we first moved back, right? And then I was like, oh, so when you turn 15, you can work. And I was so excited when I turned 15 because I was like, oh my God, now I can go get a job and I can make my own money and my parents don't get to tell me how to spend it. So I got a job as a waiter. I waited weddings at Raffles Town Club for $5.50 an hour.
You see, it's weird because in Singapore, your per hour wage is so much less than the rest of the world.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Crazy.
But I loved it. Like I loved it, and I stole a lot of alcohol from weddings. Apologies to everyone wedding who I've ever been to, but like you guys didn't notice either, so it's okay. As a 15-year-old, you know, like I would just hide a bottle or two because they had bottles. I'd just hide a bottle or two when I was cleaning up. Like I would just put it in the corner first, and then when we were wrapping up like the tablecloths and everything, I would wrap it up, and I would take it to the locker room, and I would just hide it and like smuggle it out. And the security guards never knew. They checked your bag, but they didn't really check your bag. I mean, the guy checking was always like 76 years old. Like I wasn't sure he could even see, so I figured out that was a good way. And then I would go and sell the alcohol, and I would keep a bottle for myself, and then I would sell the alcohol on the weekend to my friends or to whoever, like all the underage party goers, and I would make money so that I could go. So that was the real money maker, was selling the alcohol, or like providing it. So I don't ID people, so that was good, and I got to have fun.
What was it about you were saying that at school you didn't feel motivated, or you didn't want to try that hard? What was it that motivated you to want to work, to get out there and start the grind there rather than at school?
Because I saw what it could get me. I saw instant results. Whereas for school, weirdly, I always looked ahead at school, and I'm like, why am I learning all this shit that I'm never going to use? Like, what is algebra going to do for me? Like, ever? And I couldn't answer that question, and nobody could answer that question for me. And like, when you ask your teacher at whatever age, like, what is algebra going to do for me in my life? Like, if I'm not an accountant, or if I'm not, like a science, I don't know who uses a lot of math in their what profession. I don't really know. But yeah, I didn't see the point. Like, what is biology going to do for me? I don't want to be, like, not interested.
Has there been anything in school that has helped you do what you do now? Did you study economics?
Nothing. Like,
Nothing.
Yo, economics is like, that's the class I failed in in A levels. That's the one I failed. Although really, it was the only one I thought I'd pass, and of course I failed that one, and I passed the rest. Yeah, quite honestly, nothing I learned in school like I use now. Quite honestly, and I think it was I much more so respect like working, and I think working actually helped me gain so much experience just in terms of life, how to communicate with people, just how to work around people and how to work with people. And I've always loved people. Like, I love talking to people. I love connecting with people. That's the best part of doing this, is just the people that I get to meet and the people that I get to talk to.
Yeah, and I guess when you walked into starting your own company, you must have walked in with a certain gap in skills, right? There's stuff that you needed to learn. Did you find that you learned on the job, or was it people teaching you, because a lot of people have mentors. They have people that they can go to for advice and ask them. And, did you feel like you needed a mentor, or was it something you were like, I'm going to teach myself and I'm going to make this work for myself?
It was a lot of like, I'm just going to do it for myself kind of thing. Cause like we'll go back to like my first foray into entrepreneurship. And I didn't really know this back then. Was when I was 17, I just graduated high school, and like, I'd already been working way longer than most of my peers. I started working when I was 15. By the time I was 17, turning 18, I was like, I'm done with the $5-6 an hour. Like, I've had enough. Like, I don't want to do that. And I had some money saved up of my own in my bank account, and I kind of put together money with my best friend then, and we started a basketball coaching school after graduation. And like, I didn't know anything about business or entrepreneur. I just did it because I was like, oh, I really love basketball, and I feel like I can talk to people and I can coach them. I want to coach some kids, and like, their parents can pay me. So we started, we designed a logo, and we started putting flyers on every single basketball court that we knew. And then we started a Facebook page, and then the inquiries started coming in, and then we booked a basketball court. And then like, we started with 1 kid coming in, 2 kids, 3 kids. And then quite honestly, like, we put about $1,000 into the business. We made that back within the first month, and we started making money every single month. After that, every single week after that, and we'd only coach one session on the weekends. It turned to 2 sessions on the weekends. And before you know, like, I was making a couple $100 every single weekend. I'd coach for 2 hours on Saturday and 2 hours on Sunday. I would make a couple $100. Like, I'd meet these kids. We'd have a great time. We'd train, like, I'd teach them how to stretch, and then we'd do drills. And then their parents would pay me money, which I thought was amazing, because I was just like, oh shit, this works. And so that kind of took off, and that was kind of my first experience. And I just thought that, like, that's what it was. Like, you just start something and just, like, it just flies, and it's cool. Like, that's how it is. Like, that's how business is.
So why did that end? Like, you've had
I went to Army. Is why.
Right.
Like, I got confined for 3 weeks, and then like, it was just the worst possible situation. I think I didn't have the fortitude back then to understand like how special it was, like, that thing that I created, that I could make a couple $100 every weekend doing 4 hours of work while all my friends were starting to slave for $6.50 an hour. I was here on every weekend, just like hanging out and like playing ball and making money. I didn't realize how special it was. I thought it was just like you do anything and then it's like that quick and like super successful. And I kind of just gave it up. Like during Army, I was like, it's too hard. Like I don't want to work on the weekends. I'm already in camp from like Sunday to Friday, right? Like I just want to hang out with my friends and whatnot. So I didn't really appreciate then like how special that was, and like I think now I look back and I realize how special it was and how like if I would have just kept working on it, like how far I could have taken it. And that's really the only thing, like hindsight's 2020. So when I look back now with just the stuff that I have around me now, I was like, holy shit, like you don't know, you were so lucky.
Do you think it's easy for this age? Like I think in this day and age, it is easy for people to product their own qualities and their skills.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, you know, we're young at this stage. We don't have families that are relying on us, and, you know, we're not worried about food or shelter and things like that. Is this an age to try? Did you ever feel
110%? Like I always look right now, the way I go about doing things is I have nothing to lose. I never have anything to lose. I didn't start with anything. I still don't have that much. I don't have I don't fear loss. I don't fear failure, and I don't fear loss because I came from nothing and I have nothing to lose. I started with just myself, like just my hands, and I've done it once with the basketball thing, and then now again with this on a much larger scale. So at this age, I feel like you should go for it. But the caveat, I think, with that is, I don't think that it was just luck that showed like that resulted in the success of the basketball thing when I was 17. I had really like tangible skills or natural talent when it came to understanding like how to run a business or like how to grow a business, because I understood what people's needs were, how to be professional, how to communicate. As a 17-year-old, how do I, like talk to someone's parents who were like 40 and 50 and get them to take me seriously and pass me money and trust their kids to me. And like, I thought that everybody could do that, but actually I think that's a massive skill. And that's why I say, like, I love people, I love talking to people, and it's something that I'm naturally very good at. And I think that if I wasn't, that thing would not have worked at all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the harder you work, the luckier you get, right?
Yeah. So
did you have any trouble like getting the respect or, getting people's trust who are older than you? Especially with your entrepreneurship stuff.
I think that's more of a school thing, like not being able to get respect of people older than you. Like I felt one sentiment I always had in school about teachers or people who are older was like, why do you deserve my respect just because you're older than me? Like, why do you get to tell me what to do? Like, like if you don't treat me with respect, then why should I treat you with any respect? Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, punish me. Like, like I'm not like, you don't get to earn my, like, you don't get my respect just because you say you deserve it. You get my respect when you earn it. And I had actually just tremendous disrespect in school just because I feel like a lot of, like teachers and whatever felt like it was like supposed to be given, especially in Singapore. I feel like they don't try to connect with you on a human level, like one-to-one as a person. They, so much of it, I feel like they look at you as just like a number, or like, I felt that was tremendously disrespectful. And so like, I kind of developed an attitude of like, I don't need your respect. Like, watch, I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna do whatever I want, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it came from that then when I went out of school, that I was just then never afraid to talk to anybody, because I always felt like it wasn't like I was talking to someone's parents. It was more so I was talking to another human being, and that's how I approached it. And like, I gave them the respect that like I feel like I had to earn, and then like, and that's how it worked, right? Like, I had to present myself in the way that I wanted others to be towards me. And I think it's worked very well since then. I'm still always the youngest right now, pretty much in any meeting I go to, in anybody we work with, any room I step into, I'm always the youngest guy. I mean, just forever, every meeting I have, they're like, oh, you're 25. I'm like, yeah.
Is there anything that you value in experience though? Is there like, do you feel like your age has ever limited you? Not to admit to anyone else, but just that you know that, oh,
No.
okay, I need years for this.
I always thought that my age was a massive advantage, because I have so many years ahead of me. Even now I understand the fact that I'm 25 means that I have so long. Like, I think a lot about weird shit. Like, my dad's really old. My dad's 71, and I just think, like, cause I think it's because we traveled so much and he's told me so many stories, about how things were. And he started his career with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He started back in China, when they were still using food stamps, right? And he was telling me about that. And he's lived through that in his life, from like China being like this broke ass country, like food stamps, like closed doors, and they just opened their doors up, to now when China's a superpower in the world. He's lived through that. And it's like that's the amount of time that you have as a 25-year-old is like, like if China, like if you look at the
Yeah,
progress,
China can
like
get rich.
yeah, exactly. Like, it's crazy just how much can happen in that time span. I think I'll forever be extremely thankful to my dad, for providing like this life, like the life experience that he has, just through his job. It was unfortunate. Like, I think the best thing that he ever did was lose all of our money back in 2008. He had all his money like tied up in stocks and like finance. I was set. Like, I was a real spoiled child, like real, like really, really like proper spoiled. Anything I want, I can go anywhere I want. And then we lost everything, like literally everything. Like, we had to sell our car, for cash, like for money. When you have to sell your car because you need the money, that's really, really bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, I actually think that that's the best thing that's ever happened to me, because that kind of like gave me a chip on my shoulder. I wasn't just like, because my plans were all ruined. Because I was like, cool, I'm gonna get out of Singapore. I'm gonna go to college in the States. Get back into the American schooling system because I hate it here. And I'd already made the decision that I never would voluntarily put myself back in school in Singapore, and I never did. But circumstances changed. We lost everything, and then like my dad actually became like he started driving taxis and like being a security guard and stuff, and it's just crazy the journey that he's kind of gone through, himself, and us as a family, and that really, really like drives me till today. That like the fact that I knew how much we had and how quick it was gone, and like the fact that like I was in a spot where I just had my two hands in myself, and I was like, fuck it, like I don't need anybody else, like I'll do it all myself.
Yeah,
So you
completely.
did want to go to college in the US?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that?
But I didn't like, because I was brought up in the American system,
Mm-hmm.
in international school, and I actually enjoyed going to school back then because it was
Right.
fun, it was engaging, I got to choose what I wanted to learn, it was a lot more free, I didn't have to wear a uniform, right? Like, and like sports was like really, really important. Like you got recognized if you were an athlete, like student council, like you do everything. The opportunities were endless. Whereas when I came back, I struggled so much because number one, because curriculum was different, but everything was so rigid. Like there was
Mm-hmm.
zero choice. I had zero freedom. And like it's a DNA thing, I think, for me. Like I struggle under any type of rigidity. I always and forever need to be 100% free and always able to make every single one of my decisions by myself and live or die by it. Like that's the only way I can live. And I would never choose anything else. So I wanted to go back to school, but it didn't happen, because it was kind of like, do I want to be $200,000 in debt?
Exactly.
And I always thought to myself, like, if you had $200,000, would you go to school? Because that's what you're literally borrowing $200,000. Would you take it and go to school? Now, nobody would give me that money to do anything else. But I was like, in my head, I was like, if I had it, I wouldn't spend it on school. Like I would go and start a business, or I would go and do something. Like I would have like revisited the idea of like flight school basketball, which is what the thing was. I would have done something like that. And I was like, I would have done that. So that's where I went. I was like, I'm just going to work, see what I like, and then, let things kind of figure themselves out. And
But is there anything, like you talked about, you going about and working, like you didn't fear loss, you didn't fear what you had to lose. What is it that you fear?
like, I'm not, like nothing. I'm not scared. Like I genuinely am not scared of really anything. I can't even name you something like life wise that is really, really scary to me. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that our family lost everything, and it wasn't so bad. Like, like we survived. Like we went through the worst of it. Like we had so much to like having nothing, and like we had to scrape and to get together. And that was one of the reasons why I really wanted to start working. Was because like I just didn't want to ask. Like from the age of I've never asked for a single cent from my parents basically since I turned 17, and like I didn't have to go to school anymore. Like I never asked for a single cent from my parents ever since then.
Do you think that your younger brother reacted in the same way? Like you learned from it and you took it in your stride, but do you think your younger brother did the same thing?
A little bit different, I think. He's 2.5 years younger than me, so I don't think he fully comprehended what was going on then, how rough it really was. But I was older, so I kind of got it. And like, I think that kind of shows in our mindset and our mentality. He's in school right now, doing mechanical engineering in NUS.
Wow.
Just a high flying student, scholarships and everything. He does really, like, my brother and I are like polar opposites in terms of like the way we execute things. Like he's so far in like the structured, like, like he thrives in a system. He'll make any system work for him. Whereas like I can't even be in the system. The only system that I will make is the one I create by myself.
Do you think your brother could be an entrepreneur? Like, would you recommend that your brother, instead of going to uni, start a business? You don't think
No.
so?
Well, I mean, I always encourage him to do whatever the fuck he wants to do. But I think he also understands at this point, like he's gotten a lot of self-awareness, gained a lot of self-awareness. And I think that's one of our strengths is like, we're both very self-aware. We've had conversations where he's like, look, like I'm the opposite of you, yada, yada, yada. He doesn't want to start his own shit. Like I asked him if he wants to join me. Like I was going to give him a chunk of the company. Like when we first started, he didn't want to. He was like, no, I have my, like, he's very, like, he knows, he's told me, like, he's like, I have my own path that I need to go on, and, like, that's not really for me, like, and he's really happy that I'm doing well, and, like, all these things, great things are happening, but he understands very much that he's extremely different, and that he has his own path to pursue, and I think, like, I don't think that he would ever go down the same path that I have, because he knows it's not for him.
And what do you think about you makes you such a good entrepreneur?
Like, is there an entrepreneurial gene?
I 100% believe that. And I think I only believe that now after kind of like living through it, or like going through everything from like just taking the bottles to like, like when I was 15 to go and sell, because I understood that like people wanted it and I could make money if I just did that, and I got the job, and I was like, oh wait, this is the perfect opportunity to me to make a couple bucks, and then also like, be the dude, like, like be the plug. So that was really cool. And so that was, I think it was always a tendency for me to like think outside the box. And it was never about money. It was just like, I see an opportunity. I'm like, wait, this could work. And I just go and do it. And then again, like, right, like the basketball thing, I was just like, cool. Like, I think we could make this work. No one's doing this. I think we could do it. And then we do it. And then it works. Right. Like, and just like, kind of like repeats. It comes in cycles. Just whenever I see an opportunity present itself, I just take it, and for some reason it's always worked. And like now that I look back, I understand that it wasn't just because I was extremely lucky. I think it was just I understood that there's things that I can see that other people don't. And it's not really seeing them, but it's the way you go about executing it. Is I never had the mindset that I need this or I need that, or like it needs to be perfect, or like what I got from a very young age to like just go and do it, like just go and do shit because it'll work, and you believe in it and it'll work. And I think
go ahead.
No, I think that I had the tendencies to pursue stuff like that, that required a lot of creative thinking, and required a lot of out of the box thinking, and that's really what is more apparent to me now than ever as I look back to all the bad life decisions that I made. I just wanted to like, it was weird. Like I'd go as an underage party goer back in the day. I'd get into the club at 16. I would go into the club with less money than I walked out with. It was weird. Like I would just and like because I figured, I was like, okay, cool. So they're underage kids. They're really, really drunk. but I know the guy behind the bar and he doesn't care. He always sells me alcohol. So if I just collected $20 from every kid and I put it together and I got 20 kids and I got a bottle with it, I could keep the difference and then everybody gets drinks and everyone's happy. So like I would walk in the club with $20 and walk out with 100 and I'd partied all night and I'd drank and like it was weird. It was really, really weird. And I didn't know it back then. I just thought like, I just wondered why other people weren't doing that. It just seemed logical to me. Like you see an opportunity and you go for it, right? Like, and it works.
And that, like you were talking about, you know, you being a person who values your own freedom. How do you think people fit into that freedom that you're living in? Because you've got employees now, and they have to work with the kind of person that you are, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you implement like each company has its own structure, I'm sure. Yep. How do you implement a structure in freedom?
I think I like to think of it as freedom within the framework. When you create a framework, so if you look at your framework as a box, right? Mm-hmm. Most people like to fit within a box or like have boundaries so that they can make sense of things. Like my mind like doesn't work that way, but like most people do. And when you create a box and so you can decide the size of that box, right? And each person may need a different size box, and that's why I think it differs from individual to individual. And I value like problem solving on an individual level a lot. So like the box is never just set. It's never just like, cool, like this is it. And then like you either make it or you don't. Like it's ever changing, it's molding. So I'm listening and then I pivot and I change. And I think that that's been successful so far on a very small scale because I'm able to talk to everyone on an individual level and kind of like mold them and pivot very quickly. And change roles and you know, delegate. Like I just came back from Australia and like on the way back on the plane, I just like redid basically the entire structure of the company. And the first thing I did when I came back was like we had an all hands meeting, and then I went into individual one-to-one meetings to explain the new roles and the bigger changes to people's roles. And then like that's still going on now. Like it's forever an ongoing process. I'm trying to figure it out. How to create, and I've never done that before. I've never had employees before, never, you know, so like I'm going on a journey of, because I don't think that way, like I have to then create the framework for other people, and that means seeing stuff from their perspective and seeing their strengths and seeing how I can put them in the position to succeed, and never being afraid to just change things up and mess up, and if it doesn't work, like try again. Like, but I think conversations are the most important thing, and communicating with everyone is the most important thing, and always asking like, maybe we try this, maybe we try that. And I can't guarantee anything will work, but like if this is a solution that, you know, we can be agreeable to, then let's try that and we'll see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll try again.
And how do you think that's going to change as Primal grows? I mean, your goal for Primal is to be the #1 fitness brand in Asia, right? Is that it? Yeah. So how is that going to change?
Or in the world.
In the world. Yeah, so that's got to change.
Yeah, that's the thing that like I haven't really thought about. I always solve problems only when I get there, because I trust my gut and I trust my problem solving capabilities. It's what's gotten me to this place so far. It's just like not getting too far ahead of myself. Just navigating one bend at a time is my #1 advice to anyone who's trying to start or like is looking to start. Is just, I know you're trying to get somewhere, and like, you know that it's a windy road and there's 17,000 turns you got to make. Don't think about the 17,000, just think about the next one, and just make that turn and then make the next turn. And that's how I approach everything. Like, I'll be honest, like I haven't thought about how I'm going to scale or grow that, you know, like I have fires to put out right now that demand my attention. Like if I start thinking like, you know, 17 problems ahead, that may never actually happen. Like it may never actually be a thing. I think most problems exist up here for everyone who's thinking about starting a business, especially. Like you start thinking about all the things that could go wrong, but for every 10 things that could go wrong, there's 10 things that could go right. Yeah. You know, like it's just, I'd rather think it would all go right and then trust in my natural capabilities of as a firefighter to go and, you know, solve things when they come up.
But do you ever think of your life in the macro? Like, do you ever think about okay, at age 40, this is where I want to be?
No,
Never.
never, like never. Because I strangely feel like, um, at a very young age, I feel like I already have everything. Like I don't really have that much, but I already have everything in terms of like what I'm doing. I think I'm really lucky because I found out what my own personal true north star is, which is forever. Um, it just makes so much sense to me that like I was born to be an entrepreneur. Um, like it just makes so much sense. Like every single decision I make now, like when I look back, I'm like, holy shit, it's because I just wasn't doing the thing that I was meant to do or like that I had the most talent in. Um, because I never pursued it far enough. And what I learned with experience or growth and time and working in other places was grit and like how to push through. And not just rely, because talent doesn't get you anywhere if you don't work, right? Like the
Yeah.
work is real. And I learned, I just turned 25. I've basically been working for 10 years now. Um, like, and even when I was in school, I'd work weekends and stuff. So it was all, I was just been working for 10 years. When you've been working for 10 years, when you think about that in terms of experience, it's a lot. Like you learn to push through a lot of shit, right? Like you learn to deal with a lot of shit. Um, and that's why I think I have an edge. It's not so much because, not really because of talent, like naturally cool, good at some stuff, but I've actually done way more. I have way more years of experience under my belt than most people at 25 do. Like most people at 25 are coming out to look for their first job. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of pushing through stuff, have you ever had big failures? Because, people say entrepreneurship is all about failing, getting up, failing, getting up. But from what you've been saying, it seems like your alcohol thing worked out, your basketball thing worked out, and now Primal's working out. So is there any big failures you can tell us about?
I think that the one biggest thing, like the biggest kind of like pivoting moment of my life was when I tore my Achilles tendon. Like, because
Hmm.
my only goal was to get into and play in any school, in any division in the NCAA for basketball, and from there, like anything could happen. And it was the only thing I ever worked for, and it was the only thing I ever cared about. And like, and that's kind of where I developed like the all in attitude and like because it was all I would do. I would never miss a single practice ever, like ever, and I would always be the first one in, last one leaving, putting in the most work because I knew what I wanted and I was going to go get it and nothing was going to stop me. And then I realized something could stop me, and that's like when you have a catastrophic injury.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
like I was depressed for months and like it wasn't really like a failure on my part, but it was just like the taste of like something being taken away from me that like I loved and I wanted so much. And I knew the minute I tore it, I knew that it was over. Like it would never be the same again. And that took me a long time to kind of like get over, like just such negative vibes. Because when you want something so much and it's all you ever dream about and it's what you wake up to do every single day, and like it just gets taken away, like you kind of learn to appreciate and like that's what that kind of taught me, like just appreciate the things that you have. Like I went from being a really good athlete to barely a human being because I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
Like, I lost a foot for a year. And then when I came back from it, I went back to my first practice and I tore the other one. I lost the other foot for a year. So that was a lot of fun. So it was 2 years of like massive struggle. Um, so I would say that actually as a negative or like as a down moment in my life. I wouldn't call it a failure because I didn't really fail at anything, but it was just like the circumstances that kind of like I went through. It was, I would say it's very similar to if I had a business or like if I started something or, like whatever, something I wanted to work out really, really badly, just like didn't work for whatever reason, even though I tried my hardest. That was the taste in my mouth. And I'll forever, forever, forever have that taste in my mouth because I know like how quickly it can all go away and how quickly it can all be gone. And like every day, I just want to make the most. Like every day, every single day that I'm able to do this, like that. You go back to like, do you ever see do I ever think about where I see myself when I'm 40? I don't, because I'm just focused on every single day and like truly living the most and grabbing, like making the most out of every minute, like making sure that I only spend my time doing the things I want to do. And that's not always work. Like it could be like I want to take a nap or like want to spend time with my dogs or like whatever it is. Like I choose how I spend my own time, and that's why I don't think about 40 or 50 or 60, because all I want to do for the rest of my life is just to be able to choose how I delegate my time, and that's it. Just that choice. And I think I've won. If you can choose what you want to do from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to sleep, I think you've won.
Yeah, absolutely. Is this the advice that you'd give yourself if you were 15 again? Or would it be something else?
I wouldn't give my 15-year-old self any advice because he wouldn't listen. But if he were listening, I would say, like, just go and try and continue and go and do stuff, like, which is what I did, which is what I was naturally inclined to do. Just go and try shit. Like, if you have an idea, like, don't just talk about it. Like, I think I realize now that it was very natural for me to want to see an idea come to fruition. Like, it was the most exciting, like, feeling ever of seeing something that came from nothing, that just existed in your head, and, like, it's now something, right? Like, it was very natural for me to want to see that. But I think for a lot of people, there's a barrier where, like, they kind of face a little bit of resistance naturally, just towards, maybe because they're scared, maybe because they have fears, maybe because they think, if it doesn't work out, what other people would think of them. But, like, I never thought of any of that, because I just thought the process of creation was so beautiful and so attractive to me that I didn't think about anything else. I just want to see it happen. Like, I just want to see. It's like seeing a flower bloom, right? Like, you don't think about the flower dying. You don't say, like, I wish this flower never blooms because it's gonna die. Like, right? Like, you just want to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like Ryan and I were chatting about this podcast for like 2 months, and it's so nice to finally get going and see things.
Yeah, I love it.
And what about, okay, so you start things. Do you ever worry about making it perfect in your eyes? Or are you just, I'm going to get something out there and see how it can improve over time?
100% the latter. Never ever worried about getting anything perfect. It's never going to be perfect. That's the one thing that I learned. Especially with Primal. Like, Primal is a thing that I actually, the first thing ever that I really took seriously. Like, the other stuff was just like, it's working. As I got a little bit older, I was like, oh wow, okay, you actually, were really lucky the first couple times. Like, you gotta do this right. And I think at the beginning, I was like, I think a lot of times I'd be like trying to nail something, whether it's a website or like whatever, things were getting held up, and I was just like, no, fuck it, we're going, and then we'll just fix it as we go, and then we'll let whatever the market says, whatever the people say, like, they'll tell us. And as I've gotten a lot more technically efficient, or I've grown skill wise in terms of how to make things fast and good. And today I had a really, really good meeting with a UI UX designer who's one of our customers. We have the coolest customers, by the way, like, just the coolest people. It's so fun. Like, I actually end up meeting a lot of our customers because I just stalk them on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, you do this. And, like, next time, like, I give them a call about some food, I'll just sneak it in. Like, oh, hey, today it was really like, hey, Erica, like, your food, like, do you know your orders for next week? Yada, yada, yada. Oh, by the way, I saw on your Instagram that you're a UI UX developer. I would really like to have a coffee with you, and so that happened, and that was today, right? And we had the greatest chat about, like, our user interface and user experience, and she gave, like, so many pointers, and that's how I learn, right, from other people who have their experience. And, like, I draw from that because I'm good with people, I'm good with conversations. I always try to put myself in that position, so I'll take any meeting, like, with anyone, and then that's when I make the most progress, because what's going to happen, what's coming out of that meeting today with Erica is it's going to impact our entire website, our entire storefront, of our, as an e-commerce company. It's going to have massive impact because that conversation had massive impact on me. So just, it's really, really cool, the opportunities that kind of, like, come your way when you're just saying yes and you're doing stuff. Like, you never know what's around the corner, right? Like, with your podcast, right? Like, you're starting it. The only thing you got to do is just keep going and just keep going. Just do it and just keep going and keep going and keep going. And so many times I was questioning myself. Like, it got really hard. It got really rough on the journey. I questioned myself. Like, I've asked myself, I've looked at myself in the mirror and said, why am I doing this? It's so fucking hard. Because I charged $150 an hour for PT, and I had, like, and I was making money from that, and I was doing that as, like, a side job because I wanted to see this. Like, it was just, I just wanted to see the flower bloom. Like, I had this idea and I had this thing. Like, I talk so much shit about all the other companies, that were around at that time, and I was always like, yeah, I could do it better. I could do it better. It was like I had to prove to myself that I could do it better, and that was like the only thing that kept me going. Because like if it was about money, if it was like I could have easily focused all the time and energy and attention on doing PT, which I was very good at, and clients loved me. And like I could have done that, but like it just wasn't enough. It wasn't like I would have
It's
had
too
this
stable,
itch.
don't you think?
It's too stable.
Too
I would have had
stable.
this itch I need to scratch that I would never be able to scratch if I never saw it through. And there were so many times because I was coaching PT Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, right? And I'd start with my morning clients like 9 a.m. Right? I'd coach all the way to about 1 p.m. and then I'd have lunch, and then I'd schedule like meetings with web developers in between, and like Google AdWords, search engine marketing, and then I'd go work out, and then I'd start my evening sessions, and I'd coach my clients from like 5:30, 6:30, 7, and I'd finish usually about 8:30 or 9. And then I had no money at all, so I had to go and take a bus and then take a train. And I coached at Orchard, which is downtown. I live in Jurong, which is where we first started doing the meals at. And I would take the train back, and I would try to make it to fair price before it closed because I didn't have enough money to buy a freezer at home that was big enough, so there was never enough storage space. So I'd have to go to fair price, pick up like 6 kilograms of chicken and like 5 kilograms of fish, and then like lug it back home, defrost it, and then the next day like just start prepping the food, and just went on like 7 days a week because like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays I'd coach, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays were delivery days, so we'd prep, cook, send out the meals, and then Saturday I'd use to work on my business. And I didn't see a single friend for like a year and a half. Like, it literally did nothing but like this for a year, and I was going insane. And it was really, really lonely because it was just myself. And especially after my brother went to school, it was just really, really lonely because there was a point in time when like I couldn't afford to hire anybody for help. And then it was just myself, and I was like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, I'm selling meals worth like $14 when I make 150 an hour. Like, why the fuck am I even doing this? And like, and I remember the hardest day for like the best day of this entire journey for me was one day I did, and by that time like the volume grew and we started making a little bit more money, and we were still at the home kitchen. I had a younger kid, like come help me out after school, basically to like from the chopping and like packing and whatever. And he fell sick. And this was like a record day. Back then we were supposed to send out 90 meals in that day. And it's weird now because like now like if we have anything less than 200 in a day, I'm like, that's terrible. I think, and then I was just like, fuck, so I gotta do it myself. And my parents were in town, my mom couldn't help, like nothing. So I did 90 meals, like can you imagine coming over 90 people by yourself
That's
in
crazy.
one day, right?
That's
like
crazy.
and like after that day, I was fucking broken, like physically. I didn't sit down the whole day, I didn't eat, just nothing the whole day except like cook, pack, and prep the food and then send it out. I remember after that day, I just looked myself in the mirror and I was like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this? And I laughed. Like, I ended up laughing because I immediately arrived at the next step, which is very natural to me. I was like, it's never about a problem. It's like I'm always about the next step. So I very quickly came to the next step. It took me 5 seconds, and I started laughing because I was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to quit? And I just laughed. And I just laughed because the answer was no. And I was like, well, how long are you willing to do this for? And I was like, I am literally willing to do this again and again forever until it works. And then I never felt bad again afterwards. Like, no matter how hard it was, like that was actually like physically the hardest day ever. But I honestly can't say there was another day like physically as hard. Like maybe some days have gotten close, but that takes the cake. I just never ever wavered after that day because I just laughed. I was like, yeah, I'm not quitting. So, because if I quit, all you fuckers that say I should have went to school win.
So would you say that's why that's your answer? That's why you're doing this?
Yeah, like I do it because it's so intrinsic. It's just like I know I want to see it. I want to see it bloom. I want to see it come to fruition, whatever it is. I want to see my idea and my vision come to life, and there's nothing more satisfying than seeing that. And like there's nothing beats that. Nothing in the world can beat the feeling of like an idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's weird to say, like 2 years ago, primal was just a word I said. You know, now like
it means something, right?
like now it's just, you know, like it's crazy. Like it still blows my mind.
So, of all the ideas, why did you choose meal prep? I know eventually you want Primal to be an all-around fitness company, but why did you start
Because
with meal prep?
it was very basic, because I wanted to start something, and then I knew that food was the most important part of fitness. Like there's nothing more important, like not your training, not the supplement, like nothing. Food is everything in fitness and physique. And I couldn't like I couldn't sell anything else. I literally, because I knew that it was the most important thing, and I think that's partially why I didn't want to do PT anymore. It wasn't because I didn't like it. It was because I knew that it wouldn't make that much of a difference to these people. Like it didn't matter if they showed up 4 times or 5 times if they ate like shit. Like it would literally mean nothing. And that's why I kind of went there, because I was extremely passionate, and I am extremely passionate about fitness and helping people achieve their goals. And like, but I knew that what I was doing was only like 20% of it, and the 80% of it was food, and everyone was failing because they didn't get the food part. It's not because they didn't come to training. And I realized that there was a problem. Like my clients weren't doing it because they didn't want to prep their own food, or like they didn't adhere to the macros I gave them, because yada, yada, yada. So I was thinking, like, what if I just prep their food for them? Obviously couldn't do it at that time because there was just too much coaching. But when I got fired and I got all my time back, I was like, you know what? Like, I've tried all these services that try to do this and try to like give me my time back and like prep my food for me, but they don't work because they're not the right product, they're not the right fit, it's not customizable, like there's something wrong, or they taste bad, or you know, and that's why I wanted to do it, because I, number one, knew that it was the most important thing to anyone's fitness goal is their food. And number two, thought that everybody that was trying to do it were a bunch of scam artists because they didn't understand fitness, and they didn't really come from a fitness perspective. They were just trying to get in the industry to make a few quick bucks because like eating healthy was, you know, like is a thing. And I wanted to do it better.
And that was like something I think obviously the founder needs to have a dream when they're starting a business. But why do you think it is that people follow you? Is it you as a person, or is it because your idea is something that they can believe in?
Ooh, and your vlogs, like, it's pretty rare for a startup CEO to you know, vlog, have a Q&A session, have a YouTube personality, basically. So why do you have that?
Because honestly, because I like it. And actually, I'm creating a very big challenge for myself coming up as I'm doing my first cut of the year. I'm getting lean, not because I really want it for myself, but because I'm just really sick of people thinking it's so hard, and like, you know, like I just want to do it. Like I don't want to just talk about it. I want to do it, and I want to show you, and I want to be in your face and be like, hey, listen, dude, like just do this, and then you can get it. It's that simple. It's step A, step B, step C. It's all about execution. Like getting your physique that you want is just execution. But there's too much bullshit like flying around, like it doesn't work, or like this diet and that diet. But like I want to put it all to rest, because like the science is a science. Like caloric deficit is deficit, caloric surplus is surplus. Macronutrients are macronutrients. Like manipulating them is how you achieve the goal, like whatever goal you want. So like I've always enjoyed, I number one like making videos, and number two like connecting with people, and I love social because it's like a scalable version of like meeting people one to one. I've had like everyone, with the exception of one person in this company, everyone that currently works in this company has gotten to me through Instagram.
Really?
Everyone.
That's actually amazing. And okay, so you've seen the power of social so far, right?
Yeah.
But what do you feel like there is another step to social? Like, is there something that you're thinking about doing that people aren't doing yet on social media?
Not really. Like, I don't think that there's like new concepts or like whatever. I think about it a lot as I'm exploring like different things, and like my main, like my job is still, you know, everything to do with this company, and I try to spend as much time kind of developing and building social as I possibly can. But it's just operationally, there's a lot of stuff that like takes my attention. Like I have so much vlog footage left from Australia that I've wanted to edit since I got back on Tuesday, but it just literally like couldn't. Like I'm like planning for this. I'm like I'm gonna set out 3 hours to do this. Cannot, like just cannot. Like the supplier doesn't deliver the chicken. I'm like fishery port picking it up, right? Like it just literally, like sometimes stuff happens that's just out of your control. But I don't think there's anything special to do. I think I'm much more interested in just telling my story and telling our story, and the people around this company, what we believe in, what we do, what I do, and I just want to tell that story, and that's really about it. Like I just want to share my story with people, and especially in Singapore, I feel like a lot of times, like you don't really have that person that says go and do it, or like that, especially not people that have done it. For like if you think, like honestly, I couldn't think of a name or a person if you think Singaporean entrepreneur, like I don't look up to anybody here. It's weird.
Yeah, nothing pops to mind, right?
Yeah. So, if anything, if I can encourage even one person to go and pursue and try, like, it doesn't mean you'll succeed, but like, if I can encourage someone to go and pursue and go and try even one person, that would mean loads to me through the content that I create. Like, I never have to meet them. If I can just encourage or be that voice that says, yes, go and do, then it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there, I mean, you've constantly been doing again and again, and it's evident that it's worked, but is there anything that you regret? Is there anything you look back on and go, I kind of wish I hadn't done that?
Yeah, I wish I didn't quit on the basketball school thing. Quite honestly, I wish I would have just continued, and again, like it was just because I didn't realize like how great it was, like how great I had it. Like all my friends were working for like $6 an hour, and I was here making hundreds every weekend, like doing nothing. Like I was just hanging out with some kids and teaching them how to play basketball for 4 hours a weekend, 2 hours on Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday, and that was huge. And I just don't think that I had the mental fortitude to continue with, like, if Army was seen as an obstacle or as an adversity, I didn't have the fortitude to fight through that adversity back then.
Right,
and I've
I
also
guess,
learned a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you can look back, and like you said, hindsight is 2020. You can look back and say, oh, that basketball thing would have worked out. It was working great. And then again, you are thinking in the macro, right?
Yeah.
In that regard.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you're going to miss something? Because if you're grinding day to day, and you look back and you know that in the macro certain things clicked that hadn't clicked because you're focused on that day. Does that? Because it's just an idea that I have in my mind right now, because you've got, all of these thoughts that you're connecting the dots when you're looking back. Right?
But the only way you can connect the dots, like, is to have the dots to connect is by doing.
Mm-hmm.
You would have no dots if you didn't do shit, right? Like, so like it's not really a chicken and egg thing. Like if you had no dots, there's no connection, and the only way to get dots is to do. So what do? You just do, right? You just do, and then you look back and you reflect and you think, and then you grow and you develop, and then you go do again. Like I think that taking a step back and taking a look at the macro is extremely important. Always understanding your North Star and where you're heading to, but like the work is the work. The work is,
and the work is like, now, right? It's like
eating. Like I have this, I have this tattooed on my wrist, right? Like this is the permanent state that I live in and that I operate in, because it is never not the now. The only time is the now, and the best time to do anything is now. And like most people are stuck because they're waiting for this and they're waiting for that. They're like, oh, like if I don't, like if I draw this dot, I might like miss the opportunity to draw another dot over there.
That's basically what I'm asking.
No dots.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I'm asking, because it's like, oh, okay, if I'm doing this, I'm foregoing doing this. But then if you consider it that way, I mean, you might end up doing none.
Yes. So like the only answer to that like is yes. Like cool, you want to do this dot? Yes. You want to do the other dot? Yes. That just means you have to be really good and you have to do both. Or maybe you do one immediately after the other. Like and like if you think about opportunity costs, or like I think most of it isn't like if you look at even my scenario of like I've never went to school, I chose not to go to school. If everything ended tomorrow and this all like failed and like everything blew up, I could still go to school. Like what did I lose? Nothing.
Yeah,
I've
good point.
gained you know what I mean? Like most people get paralyzed. They're like, oh, but like if I choose to do this, then I won't be going to school. You can still go to school. Like, you know, like you didn't really lose anything. And if anything, you gained a lot. You gained a lot of experience. Like you maybe learned a lot. You maybe learned that this wasn't for you, or like, and then when you go back to school, you're like, okay, now I'm all in because now I want to go and pursue that like corporate career or like that job because like I found like I really didn't like it was too much, like it was too crazy being an entrepreneur or like whatever it was, like I never want to do that again. That's learning, that's growth, because that will make you go after what you're going after now harder than ever because you now have clarity. You've now gone to that dot, you've come back, and now you're going to the other one. It only costs us time, and what did it really cost you other than that?
Yeah, completely. And when those other dots come around, right, there are ideas that you might have and you might think, oh, I like this one more. How do you prioritize things in your life? How do you know, okay, I will value this more because maybe it'll help me in the future, or I'll value this more because it's hitting my interests now? Like, what is it about, like, how do you prioritize it, basically what I'm asking?
On a date, okay, so I mean, do you mean on a personal level or more on a, you know, in terms of the business, in terms of opportunities
Yeah,
for the
more on a
business?
personal level, because I think everyone can talk about prioritizing in business
Yeah.
and interesting to see how personal.
On a personal level, I, I quite honestly, like, I don't think that much about like myself as like the one thing that I do understand that this here, what I'm building or what's happening here is my resume, and I know that like everything that I put forward, you know, into the company, into growing it, into whatever, into making progress here is a mark on my resume, right? And that makes very natural sense. So like it's almost like business is completely aligned with my personal goals. I don't really have goals outside of the company other than stuff that's like really, 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 really far away, like extremely far away that isn't even worth thinking about. Um, but like I think when it comes to even simple things, um, like I like letting things come to me personally, whether it's work or whether it's myself. Like I tend to like really sit back and just do the most I can within my capabilities, and then I know that just by doing that, because I've been doing that for so long and everything always comes to me, I know that by doing the most that you always can, like by doing the most within your reach, that when you reach and you reach, things start to come in and your reach grows. So I don't think I'm ever kind of paralyzed by like, oh, I could be doing this or I could be doing that. That was the thing that like went a long time ago, because I think that when you adopt the mindset of like doing, you just completely forget like you don't consider things like I could be doing this. Well, if you could be doing that, then go and do it, right? Like go and do it, and then if it's not for you, then come back and do this again. It's the thinking that like traps a lot of people, and it's the thinking and considering and like I could have, would have, should have, that like
Yeah.
paralyzes people. You know, I think that's the worst thing that you could do is sit and think about like what could have or like what I should do. What you should be doing is go, you have 10 ideas, great, go and do all 10. Go and map it out, try each one for 2 months, and then come back and think which one you like the most.
So do you think that's something you've learned over the years? Or was
Yeah.
that always okay? Yeah, and so
I could very easily, like, I think in the mind of an entrepreneur, you can very easily get distracted by a shiny new thing, like a shiny new idea. It's always fun because you think of an idea and you're like, oh, cool, like how cool would that be? And I think that would have been the biggest draw for me to kind of quit when it was really, really, now it's not. Now it's just like, this is ridiculous now that like, you know, like I couldn't possibly just think of pursuing something else. But like when it was like not really anything, it was very easy for me to say, but what if I went and did this like instead? And then you think about how cool it is, and then you go down the line, you're like, oh, but like if I put this product in this person's hands, and then you come back to reality, and I think that's what experience has given me. It's like it's not as easy as you think it's gonna be, right? You're already putting in the like. I had to kind of like tell myself to stay focused a lot when I was going through it, and not be distracted by shiny new things and ideas and like could be and should be. Like I had to do a lot of like coaxing to myself. Like the only way I would have quit is if I convinced myself that I could be doing something better.
right.
You know, like
Yeah.
yeah, and that's a struggle that I had to go through personally, and that was the grit, right? That was the grit that I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That I didn't have when the basketball school was around. I just didn't understand that. I was just like, cool, like it's easy. Like, just go do something else.
That's interesting because you've passed that struggle. I'm still in that struggle, I feel. You know, I'm always interested by the shiny new thing. I'm always keen. Ryan, what about you? Like, anything comes by that's new and interesting and could possibly make me famous, I'm like, all right, I'm in, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the free spirit you're talking about. You have to try and contain the free spirit, do you think?
You
In
have
a way?
not contain it, but like give it direction, and you
Mhm.
have to really, really believe and buy into that direction. Obviously, now we're at a point where it's so clear that it's working and that like it's just unthinkable because it's real. Like you can't just quit this because
What was that point?
there's literally people like when people start working for you, you're like, okay, fuck, like it's very
Okay.
real. Like,
When you get employees.
yeah, because you can't just be like, oh, cool, I'm not doing this anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that would be disastrous. But what? Punch him in the face. So we have Chang sitting across from me. He said if I did that, he'd punch me in the face. So obviously, like you get to a point where you can't do that. But I think that's why it's so important to do something that you like, something that speaks to you personally. And this was something that I really, really believed in, and I really believe would help people. And that's why I continued pursuing it, because there was no better way for me to help people in fitness,
Mm-hmm.
in something that I was tremendously passionate about. I tremendously loved coaching my clients and wanted to see them make progress, but I knew that what I was doing wasn't enough. Like it was the 20%. I wanted to do the 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the alignment of like, I like this, I believe in it, and I want to deliver a product that really means something and that can make a difference. And that's what's kind of kept it, like that's why I've stuck with it. That's why I haven't been drawn to the shiny new thing, because literally I couldn't do anything better in this area.
Mm.
Like I couldn't do anything better in fitness than this.
And it was
And
great timing too. Like in 2015, there was a pretty big gap in the market for meal prep stuff. But what about now? Don't you think meal prep as a concept is getting a lot more popular? And
as a concept, yes, and I think that it'll
yeah,
continue to grow.
uh-huh.
And hilariously, I think we're the only company doing the right thing, which is fully customizable meals, because every single individual is different, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone has different needs, everyone has different goals. You can't just sell, like a lot of companies out here are selling like, oh, bulk up meals or like get lean meals, but like the macros, the calories I need to get lean or bulk
Right, they're
up are
specific to the
vastly
person,
different
right?
from like Ryan's or yourself.
Yeah.
Like, how can you possibly market it as that? And I knew that that's wrong, and I hated it. Um, like and as people and people are like, that's why I think it's always great to be doing the right thing, even if it's harder, because if what you're promoting and if what you're selling is the truth, and it is what is best for the end consumer, it is what is best for the person buying it, and you know it in your heart, like you feel really good about selling it, right?
Yeah.
Like you're never afraid to get caught out, or like that the fad is going to fade, like, because what I'm selling is the truth. The product that I sell is based on the science behind physique and dieting, and like it's not a fluff product, it's not a juice cleanse, it's just real food. And the way I'm branding it, the reason why I want to do a lot of videos and take myself through a cut is because I want to actually show people the right way to create a sustainable diet is to really put in the work and understand your food and the relationship your food has with your body. Like, there's
Yeah,
no other way around.
and
There's
it's
no like get ripped quick like this,
yeah, completely. And I think it's something that people are taking a heed of more as time goes on. Like they're understanding how important it is.
Yeah, and
Um,
it'll develop. Did we lose Ryan? I feel like we did.
I think we've
I'm
got a frozen Ryan.
yeah, I'm still here, but my
Oh, he's
video is
still here.
frozen.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that selling the right product that you believe in, and that I think the number one question you got to ask yourself is, I think another talent, or like something that I'm naturally very good at, is considering things from other people's perspective and seeing it in an unbiased way. And like when I look at something, I think it's really important for anyone looking to bring a product to market, or like, is you have to feel good about selling it. Like, because if you don't, if you think that like you're like, and I think that's for me. If I felt like I was kind of like getting it easy, or like getting the better end of the deal, I would feel like I was scamming somebody, and like I could never ever do that. Like it was just too difficult for me to do. Like I wouldn't, if I don't feel good about something, I can't do it. And like maybe it differs from people to people, or like person to person. But like I think that if you're able to ask yourself, back to the shiny new thing conversation, if this shiny new thing, and you thought about it from the other perspective, and you became the buyer, right? And you're the most knowledgeable buyer, because you're the one that's trying to sell the product. So if you're the most knowledgeable buyer, and you would be like, holy shit, I'm so in, like, I love this. This will help my life. I'm happy to pay this amount, like, for it every single day, like every single time. I think you're good, right? Like, because you would feel good about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing the good thing, you don't have to look over your shoulder and be like,
yeah.
Okay,
now Ryan's upside down.
Right, we've got.
Now he's upside down. Okay. Yeah, but so I think feeling good is another thing that would help you stay true and not waver from your current thing to the shiny new thing. Is if you felt really, really good and you truly believe that what you were selling is impacting people in the positive way, in the right way, then you won't waver from it.
How you holding up, Ryan? There he is.
I'm back.
Oh, he's back.
No,
he's back.
Not yet.
Oh, he's back. I see his face again.
Finally see.
Great.
There we go.
He's all set up. Okay, that's perfect, dude. Welcome back.
Okay, so
welcome back to your own podcast.
So yeah. I mean, we were just discussing about a lot of things about fitness. Then we covered the importance of understanding your own food, and basically doing the right thing. And I think that is a really important thing. Knowing that you are actually doing good.
Yo, DY, I've got a big question for you. Yeah. How are you so jacked, bro? I mean, like, wait, do you work out for yourself, or is it for the business as well, to show people
that's completely for myself, because I just love training. I love training. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love training, and I wouldn't be in fitness if I didn't love training. That's the truth. Like I fell in love with training, and I love making progress, and I love lifting, and like I love everything to do with it. So again, right, like if you like what you're doing, you're not going to stop. It's not like I don't do it to look a certain way. I don't do it to feel a certain way. I do it because I enjoy my time in the gym. It's precious to me.
And at the same time, you are your own walking advertisement. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like it all works out really, really well. So like, you kind of take a look at it, and like when you just really do what you love and you stay in your lane, and like, you do stuff that you know about, and you do stuff that you love, like it all just seems to work out perfectly, doesn't it? Like it just, because it all ties together, because your passion will tie everything together.
Yeah, I really like the term "stay in your lane," because it's like, so I used to have a swim coach who would always tell me before competitions. He'd always say, "Beat the person in your own lane."
Oh,
and it's
no,
just
I thought it meant like you were swimming into other people's lanes.
That was me. That was me when I was trying to swim. I'd always swim into other people's lanes.
Backstroke is the devil when it comes to trying to stay in your own lane.
Yeah,
just that's it.
See.
No, exactly.
When I swim backstroke, right, I'm literally swimming in a circle. I go round and round. I never reach the end.
Oh, yeah. What were you saying? I got totally. Yeah, stay in your lane. Yeah, that's do what you're good at and do what you like. Like you tend to be pretty good at doing what you like, so just keep doing that, right? Like it sounds super simple, but I don't know why a lot of people struggle with it. It's just like do the thing you like the most, keep doing it, get really, really good at it, and then if you get really, really good at it, other people will ask you how you did it.
There's this guy. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk. Do you know about him?
Massive Gary Vee fan.
He's basically like you, just a bit of an older version.
Not as good looking though.
Not as good looking. That's right. Definitely not.
Definitely not. Yeah, he hasn't.
Also not as humble. So
yeah, the freaking show off. Anyways, he has this thing where he says, you double down on your strengths, and your weakness, just forget about them. What do you think about that? Do you think you should just forget about your weaknesses?
I agree.
So
Like, and I think that's a thing that can only really apply in business, because if you were thinking about like individual like sports or like whatever, you can't really hire someone to do something that you're not good at, or but in business you can. So I think that really works in this context, because you can there's always someone that likes doing the stuff that you don't, or there's always someone that's good at the things that you're not. And you can find those people and have them compliment you, so you don't really have to worry about it. Like, I 100% agree.
And so you don't value, or I shouldn't say don't value, but you don't see as much value in improving your weaknesses.
No, not at all. Like, the only time I try to improve a weakness is when I'm in the gym, because I can't have someone else lift for me, right? So, it's like, that's why I say there's a separation. Just because I suck at deadlifting, like I can't, I can't be like, oh, like, Himsy, go and lift it for me, because it doesn't do anything for me, right? So yeah, I think that it really works in this context, because I know the stuff that I'm not good at is the stuff I also don't like doing. So why would I spend any time? And if my life motto is when I wake up to when I go to sleep, like, I only do the shit that I like or that I want. Like, why would I ever spend any time doing shit that I don't? But there's also, I think, on the flip side, when you don't have resources, when you are running a really young startup, you probably have to do a lot of the shitty shit, like, that you don't like to do, by yourself. Whether it's accounting, I hate accounting. Like, right now we outsource accounting to another company. But like, I had to do that for myself. If I didn't do it, I knew that I would never be able to get an investment because there would be no numbers to show anyone. So I knew that I had to do that. That was really important. But I think this is where, if you keep your vision and your North Star in mind and you understand what you're actually trying to accomplish, again, your passion and your interest, and that's the stuff that will tie you into it, and like, just be like, cool, I'm working for this bigger goal. I'm gonna do the accounting. I may procrastinate it for 2 weeks, but I'll still get it done, or 2 months, but I'll still get it done at the end of the day, because I know it's important. And that's the stuff that will kind of keep you going, even if you don't really like doing the minor stuff, because you know that eventually you won't have to do it.
And that's the thing, right? You just got to go with it. I mean, it's part of the grind, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Like, definitely. There's stuff that I just really hate. Like, can't do it. But sometimes you just have to, right? Like, sometimes you just really have to. There's no choice. And you have to adopt a startup mindset. Is I think the greatest thing to ask yourself, and the greatest thing that I ever asked myself, was, how long are you willing to do the shitty shit for, like, the stuff that you're not willing to do for the success of your company and to bring your company to the place where you want it to be? And when I said I was willing to do it forever, then you literally stop complaining about it when you say forever. Like, I will do it until it doesn't work, until I actually, like, so and then you stop. And that was kind of my pivoting moment of, like, I realized I was doing all the stuff that I didn't like doing, but there was a greater goal. So that made it all okay.
So I guess, to put it all together, there's 2 parts to it, isn't it? The first part is doing what you like, and the second part is doing what you have to when you have to.
Yeah,
it's about that balance, right?
Yeah. So you just, like, and I think, as the founder, or as the number one in a company, as anyone who is an entrepreneur who has started their own shit, I think you're the last line of defense. So everything comes to you. You have to be willing, and again, interestingly, you have to be willing to do what the rest of your company is not willing to do or not capable of doing. You have to fill in the gaps, right? It doesn't matter if, like, you really like, for example, let's go real life example. If I couldn't afford an accounting company, and none of my staff knew or were good at it or, like, wanted to do it, guess who's doing it? Like, right? Like, yeah. So that's the kind of mindset that you got to have. You just have to be willing to do whatever, fill in the gaps, like, be the best gap filler firefighter that you could possibly be, and that's your job.
Amazing.
All right, thanks so much, DY. We're coming up on about 1.5 hours now. Could you give one more answer?
Okay.
All right. So if you had to give one piece of advice to a young entrepreneur, what would that be? Anything in general.
Stop fucking thinking about it.
Just
Like,
do it.
Yeah, stop. Like, get rid of aspiring and just be. Like, too many aspiring entrepreneurs. Like, you're either doing it or you're not, right? Like,
Yeah, entrepreneurs, right?
get rid of that aspiring tag. There's no reason there should be an aspiring tag. Like, if you're an entrepreneur, like, you're trying to build something. So there's no trying to build something. You're either building something or you're not. Like, and you know it. You know it best. So yeah, it's just like, stop thinking about shit. Go and do it. Be an entrepreneur. Don't be an aspire. There's no such thing as an aspiring entrepreneur.
Or an aspiring anything, right? It's like that applies everywhere. If you want to,
I mean, like, actually, like, I mean, there's things where you could be an aspiring professional basketball player, because the definition of like a professional basketball player is when you get paid to play basketball, and you don't really get to decide that. And I think like entrepreneurship is an interesting thing because you literally decide when you are and when you're not. Like, when you're grinding and when you've decided to take that first step into building something, you're in it. Like, you're entrepreneuring, like, cool, you know, and everyone that's not doing it isn't. Like, it's black and white. Like, it's so simple. It's either you are or you aren't. You know, and whether you make it or not, whether you're successful or not, like, that's a different story. But like, if you're an entrepreneur, you're doing something, you're building something. If you're not, like, if you're not, you're not.
Absolutely. And on that note,
thanks so much for coming on the podcast, DY. It's been awesome having you here.
Guys. This is awesome. I really want to, like, I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys do this. So just keep it up. I love what you're doing. I think.
Yeah. Can you plug all your stuff? Tell people where to find you, how to find Primal Meal Prep, all that stuff.
Find me on YouTube. Just search DY Even on YouTube, and that's where I want you to go. Just on YouTube, because the good stuff is on YouTube. So go to YouTube. I don't really care if you ever buy a fucking meal from me, to be honest. Watch my stuff. That's important. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks so much for coming on. I hope all the best for you.
Thank you. You too. Let's stay in touch.
Cheers.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.